and welcome to the Tournament Center. I'm Randy Buehler here with Brian David Marshall. We're at Pro Tour Yokohama, and day one is in the books. All alone in first place, Jose Luis Echevarria. Yet another South American player taking advantage of the decision to put flights on the line at PTQs instead of just a travel award. Right? He's only been to 3 Pro Tours, but all 3 of them have been in the last year. He made day 2 at Kobe, scrubbed out at Geneva, but now here he sits 8-0, the only undefeated in the entire tournament. Did you get a chance to look at this guy at all?
I did. I watched him. He was, it was like, wow, stormbind up near the top, and but I kind of a cipher. I was like, I don't recognize this guy.
Right.
And even when we were talking to him at the end of the run, he's very quiet.
Yep.
Worked with a group of friends. And just that example of that, there's like you said, there's people who are really good at Magic all over the world who maybe have not had that opportunity to shine.
He had a pretty interesting take on the format, I thought. Blue-black, so he's got the, damnation to fairy mystical teachings.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No splash. It's like, I saw all these guys, they're splashing white for disenchant, they're splashing red for void, they're splashing all over, 3 colors, 4 colors, probably some of them are splashing green. No, he said, I'm just going to play 2 color, I'm not going to get mana screwed, just straight blue-black, no splash. That was the secret, 8-0, got up to the top, beat Dane Young in the last round, green-red player.
Who's playing the green-red? I'm sorry.
Yeah, he had Stormbinds multiple times, but yeah, I talked to Dane Young, he said, first game, he had turn 3 Spectral Force, turn 4 Spectral Force, and Echevarria just killed them all.
Yeah,
it's
like it wasn't good enough.
I don't have a better draw than that, so...
He said they were damned.
Yeah, exactly. Now, hanging out right behind those guys, there is a huge cluster of superstar players hanging out at 7-1.
Columbus Alumni Club here.
Sure.
It's the Columbus reunion.
So there's 10 players on 7-1 or better at this tournament. You got Olivier Ruel, Pierre Canali, Tsuyoshi Fujita. On top of that, Paulo Carvalho, world's top 8 competitor.
Mark Herberholz, Honolulu champion. Terry So says he's back and is 7-1 to show for it. Just an awesome collection of names hanging out in the top 10 of this tournament right now. Terry So is just really happy to be playing any kind of deck with counter spells and, gifts ungiven type cards.
And Echevarria is not the only youngster in the top right now. You were saying that William Lowry's playing his first Pro Tour ever?
William Lowry has played in 2 PTQs in his career.
Won the second, I guess?
Won the second one, got a plane ticket, apparently was the crowning moment of his life before making day 2 of his first Pro Tour, was getting his plane ticket in the mail.
Sure.
Apparently he just got this plane ticket and he just was ebullient.
Wow.
He just couldn't, it's the most exciting thing in the world to him. And he's really interesting because he's sitting there in 8th place. Well, what deck have we not talked about all day today? Slivers. No, not wild pair slivers, not combo slivers, just plain old smash your face slivers.
Wow.
Sinew slivers, sinew slivers, cautery slivers, I guess probably a little black for maybe? Bone splitter or sedge sliver.
Sure.
Just smashing face. He's like, I thought it was the best deck the whole time. Just
fair
played
enough.
it. He's got 1 loss. I mean, he looks like a genius right now.
Interesting. So one guy that we're not going to be talking about tomorrow, Kenji Samura. Kenji played the blue-black control deck. He seemed like he was playing tight Magic. And the thing is, Kenji, I feel like he's got those. He's been doing well in the Grand Prix. You wrote that article last week. People are really starting. There's a certain gravity around Kenji Samura right now.
He warps the entire room.
The crowd grows around him. Everybody's watching, and everybody watched. And in the last round, he came down to it. He was in the feature match area. He was sitting on X2-1. He picked up a draw, which is as bad as a loss. Had to get to 5-3 here to keep going on day 2. And he took on a player from the Czech Republic named Jerkovic, and Jerkovic won the first game. Kenji came back, won the second game, forced the third game. Kenji had a winning position in the third game.
He was in an overwhelmingly dominant position. He had played some great Magic. Before he canceled something, he split second, extirpated all of his opponent's cancels, and the game was pretty much his, right? I mean, the cancel
he had a winning position, and the clock ran out.
And he just ran out of time, and the people in the crowd were like, murmuring like, concede, concede, concede.
And they drew. They wrote down a draw, and
Kenji never asked for it.
No, he didn't.
And I asked him about it later, and he said, "I don't ask for. I'm not going to do it. I don't like that."
Fair enough. They played to a draw, so 3-2-2. Only picked up 2 losses, but those true draws were fatal, and he fell 1 point short.
Rich talked about that in the segment. We talked about clock management. It could be the one point Kenji maybe could have conceded a couple turns earlier in game 1 because he eventually scooped in game 1. He got locked by his own Brine Elemental. His opponent had 2 Vesuvian Shapeshifters going, had like 5 or 6 lack of untapped steps stacked up.
Sure.
And Kenji built up, played land, went damnation, and his opponent countered it. Then Kenji scooped. It could be that even if he had resolved the damnation there, he's still in a lot of trouble in a control mirror without untapping for 5 turns.
So one guy who was playing on the bubble and did make it through, Willie Edel. Willie Edel, we talked about this guy all day today. The real story of this day one for me was the panic about White Weenie. There was a Magic Online Premier event about a week ago, over 100 players, and of those players, all 8 of the top 8 were playing White Weenie decks.
And 13 of the 16.
13 of the top 16 were playing White Weenie decks. Everyone came into this tournament saying it's going to be all White Weenie all the time. Everybody was loaded for bear with Sulfur Elementals and, Blood Knights and Wildfire Emissaries in the main, Fortune Thieves in the main. This field was just out to destroy White Weenie, so the White Weenie didn't do that well. Willie Edel, though, he was the guy, he was in second place in that Magic Online Premier event, sort of the poster child for White Weenie, and he got through. Had to play for bubble at the end, got the win, so there will be, I guess he's carrying the flag for the White Weenie deck tomorrow.
Sure.
A little bit of White Weenie, and I thought that's really the story behind this format. You got White Weenie, you've got the blue-black control, you've got a bunch of red-green variants, some mono-red. There's a lot of diversity and there's a lot of variety, but that White Weenie and then sort of the overreaction I thought was the real story,
sure,
deck-wise of this block-constructed format.
Even if you can't see the moon, it still has an effect on the tides, right? So all these red decks that are out there, they're there for the white decks. And what's going to be interesting is what happens tomorrow. Because the decks that are the most prepared to play against non-White Weenie decks,
right,
those are the decks that are going to do well. I mean, you're going to have a lot of decks
people are going to start looking at their Wildfire
Emissaries. Play
Emissaries.
their Wildfire Emissary game 1, and you're like, okay, block it with Waller Roots.
Right.
Big deal.
Yeah, it's almost like the Japanese perfected this a couple years ago.
Absolutely.
You need a deck that's really 2 decks together. If you can have a deck where day 1, you've got game against aggro, but day 2, because of your sideboard, you've got multiple strategies built in, you can set the deck up to do well against control. Whoever has sort of mastered that, that's who's going to succeed tomorrow on day 2.
Right.
A lot of good names at the top. Brian and I will be here bringing you coverage of it, so...
Should be exciting.
Good night from the Tournament Center. Day 1 of Pro Tour Yokohama is in the books.
If you're 18 or under, you can play Magic for cards and college in the Magic Scholarship Series. Start putting your skills to the test at an MSS Qualifier Challenge, where you'll get an alternate art foil whirling dervish card just for showing up. Kick enough butt and you'll get a piece of $1,000 in scholarship, free Magic cards for a year, and an invitation to play in the championship, where you'll play for a piece of $100,000 in college scholarship money. Season 2 picks up on March 24th, and the championship in Baltimore is on July 28th. So get your deck in order and get ready to school your opponents. For more information about the scholarship series, go to wizards.com/MSS.